What's up, family? Before we get into today's video, I need to apologize. I know my last two videos were just average. You guys expect the best from me, and I didn't deliver. But I promise you right here, right now, from this day forward, I am only posting top-tier content. I will not stop grinding until every single one of you becomes a real hacker. And let me clear something up for the new people. I am not some AI reading a script. I'm Joe. I'm right here in the trenches with you, and my only goal is to help you level up. Today, we are diving deep into some Linux commands and hidden files. This is advanced stuff, but don't panic. I'm going to break it down so simply that even a zero-knowledge day one hacker will understand exactly how this works. Before we start the hacking, if you want to support the channel and skip years of trial and error, go grab my master bundle. It includes the Practical Network Scanning Manual and the Web Hacking 2026 Manual. That's over 160 pages of pure, actionable hacking security. The link is in the description. Also, if you're just starting, check out my free course. I spent years making it. Just put $0 at checkout, get in there, and learn. All right, no more long intro. Let's get our hands dirty. All right, family, listen closely. First up, we are talking about a file called etc/fstab. Look, most people think Linux is this complicated, magical beast. It's not. Think of Linux like a massive high-security hotel. The hard drives, the USBs, the network drives, those are the rooms. So what is etc/fstab? That is the ultimate master floor plan. It tells Linux exactly where every single room is located, the split second you hit the power button. So check this out. What happens if this file gets messed up? Imagine you walk into this massive hotel. You look at the map and it says your VIP suite is on the 10th floor. But you look at the elevator, and the building only has 9 floors. What happens? You freeze. You're stuck in the lobby. That is exactly what Linux does. If a bad update, a lazy admin, or let's be real, a hacker like you or me messes up even one single letter in etc/fstab, Linux completely loses its mind. It throws up a black screen, drops you into emergency mode, and literally refuses to boot. It locks the doors because it forgot where its own brain lives. But let me bring you into the trenches for a second. Let me tell you a real war story. Script kiddies talk all day about breaking into servers. But breaking in is easy. The real hacker game, it's staying in. We call it persistence. If the system admin reboots the server, I do not want to lose my connection. I need a backdoor, and I need it to be a ghost. I don't drop some loud, stupid malware that triggers every alarm. Instead, I go straight for the throat. I go to etc/fstab. I basically hypnotized the machine. I told Linux, every single time you boot up, take my hidden hacker folder and silently force it over a normal, boring system folder. When the admin logged in, everything looked fine. No alarms, no weird files. But underneath, every time they turned the machine on, the master floor plan was automatically loading my payloads. They thought they owned the hotel. I own the master keys. All right, enough theory. Let's look at a real-world example. I just pulled this straight from my own Kali Linux box. When you are in the trenches and you open that file, you're going to see a line that looks like absolute gibberish. Look at this on my screen. To a beginner, that looks like alien math. It's not. It's just 6 simple instructions. Let's translate my actual system right now. First, the ID. See that massive string of random numbers and letters? That is the exact fingerprint of the hard drive. No 2 drives in the world have the same UUID. Then the room. Where does this drive live? That single / means the root. This is the master lobby of the hotel. Every single file on the computer branches out from right here. The third is the language. What language does the drive speak? Linux usually speaks ext4. Then the rules. This is the cool part. It uses default rules, but look at that second piece. Errors equal remount row. This is a built-in panic button. It tells Linux, if this drive starts failing or gets corrupted, instantly lock it down to read-only so nothing else gets destroyed. Number 5, the backup. Do we want a system backup dump? 0 means nah, skip it. Lastly, the check. What order should Linux check for errors? The root drive is the absolute most important, so it gets a 1. It gets checked first before anything else boots. And check out that second line right below it on my terminal. That's the swap space. When you are running heavy vulnerability scans or brute forcing passwords, your RAM gets full fast. When RAM is full, Linux uses a chunk of your hard drive as fake RAM to keep the machine from crashing. That swap line is just the master floor plan telling the system where that overflow room is. Boom. That's it. You just learned how to read the most dangerous file in the Linux architecture straight from a Kali box. All right, family, picture this. You are doing a penetration test. You finally get root access on a Linux server. You make your changes, you plant your backdoor, and you type reboot to make sure your access stays hidden. The system goes down, and then it just hangs. You are staring at a black screen with a flashing cursor. 1 minute goes by, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Your heart is literally pounding out of your chest because you think you just completely destroyed the server. You are sweating bullets, thinking you are about to lose everything. And then, right when you are about to pull the power plug, the login screen pops up like absolutely nothing happened. You didn't break the server. You just met the ultimate boss of Linux. Let me introduce you to a massive program called systemd. If etcetera tab is the master floor plan of the hotel, systemd is the general manager. It controls absolutely everything. When Linux boots up, systemd stands at the front door with a clipboard and starts shouting orders. Start the network, turn on the firewall, mount the hard drives, start the web server. But here is the secret to why it sometimes takes exactly 3 minutes to boot. Imagine you are a getaway driver for a bank robbery. You look at your crew and say, I am giving you exactly 90 seconds. If you aren't back in this car in 90 seconds, I am driving away without you. That is exactly how systemd operates. Let's say systemd tells the server to connect to a network drive, but the internet is down. Systemd doesn't just crash, it starts a timer. It sits there, tapping its watch, usually for exactly 1 minute and 30 seconds, or 3 minutes depending on the system. It waits and waits and waits. Finally, the timer runs out. Systemd says, forget it, I'm leaving without you, and the system finishes booting. When you see that black screen for 3 minutes, you aren't hacked and you aren't broken. Your computer is just being ghosted by a bad connection. So if your machine is booting incredibly slow, how do you find out who the slow guy is? You don't guess. You use a built-in sniper scope. Watch my terminal. I'm pulling this straight from my own Kali Linux box. If I want to know exactly what caused the delay, I type this. Systemd analyze blame. Look at that output. Blame is the perfect name for this command because it literally snitches on whatever program is slowing down the system. It ranks every single process, from the absolute slowest to the fastest. Look right at the top of my screen. 8.6 second networking.service. That took almost 9 seconds just to start the network. Why? Because the system is waking up the Wi-Fi card, asking the router for an IP address, and waiting for a handshake. If my router was unplugged, that 8 seconds would easily turn into that 90-second getaway driver timeout we just talked about. The system would just sit there, staring at a black screen, waiting for a network that doesn't exist. And look at number 2 on the list, 6-second dpkdb backup.service. That is Linux taking almost 7 seconds just to back up its internal software database before it lets me use the computer. This is where the game changes. Script kiddies will sit there staring at a loading screen, complaining that Linux is slow. A real hacker logs in, runs systemd, analyze blame, looks at this list, and asks, do I actually need this running right now? If I am in the middle of a fast-paced penetration test and I don't care about the software database backup, I kill the service, I disable it, and suddenly my machine boots 7 seconds faster. You control the machine, my family. It does not control you. All right, family, we fixed the boot speed. You control the machine. But now I have a serious question for you. How does the computer actually know who you are? When you type your username on the login screen, you think Linux says, oh, welcome back, Joe. It doesn't. Linux doesn't care about your human name. Linux only speaks numbers. And the master list that translates your human name into a machine number is a file called etc_passwd. Think of /etc_passwd like the clipboard held by the biggest, meanest bouncer at an exclusive VIP club. When you log in, Linux checks that clipboard. Every single user gets a badge number called a UID, or user ID. If you are a normal user, your badge number is usually 1000. You get to hang out in the lobby, but you can't touch the vault. But there is one badge number that controls everything. Badge number 0. That is the root user, the god of the machine. If you hold badge 0, you can wipe the entire server out of existence with one command, and the computer will not even ask, "Are you sure?" Now let me bring you into the trenches. Let me tell you how we actually exploit this. A while back, I hacked into a web server. I got a reverse shell, and I was in. But I was stuck as a garbage tier user called www data. Look at my screen. See this line right here? www data has a badge number of 33. Worse, look at the end of the line. USR SBIN no login. The system literally told me I wasn't even allowed to have a proper terminal. I was a ghost trapped in the lobby. Script kiddies will give up right here. But I started hunting, and I found the Holy Grail. The admin messed up the permissions on the itsir@cpasswd file and made it so anyone could edit the bouncer's clipboard. So what did I do? I didn't run a loud, noisy exploit. I just opened this file, found my garbage user, deleted that 33, and typed a 0. I saved the file. Linux looked at the clipboard, saw the 0, and immediately handed me the keys to the entire kingdom. If you want to be a real hacker, you need to know how to read this file like the Matrix. Look at the very top line of my Kali box right now. Let's translate this hacker code into plain English so even my day one guys get it. It's just 7 pieces of data separated by colons. First root, the username, just a label for the humans. Then X, this is a trap. Decades ago, the actual password lived right here, but hackers kept stealing it, so now X is just a placeholder. The real passwords live in a hidden vault called ETC Shadow. There it is, the UID, the VIP badge number. 0 means absolute power. Again, 0, the GID, the crew you roll with. This root is just a description. This is the home directory. This is where this user sleeps. This is the shell. Notice it doesn't say bash. Modern Kali Linux uses ZSH as the default terminal. If you see this, you know exactly what environment you are walking into. And look all the way at the bottom of my file. There I am, the normal Kali user. Badge number 1000, home directory in home Kali. Listen to me. Every single time you compromise a box, one of the very first things you do is check if you have write access to /etc/passwd. If you do, the game is already over. You won. If you are serious about mastering these privilege escalation techniques and totally dominating a network, go grab the master bundle on my website. It's the Practical Network Scanning and Web Hacking 2026 manuals all in one place. The link is in the description. All right, Borthers. We've talked about files on the hard drive. We've talked about the bouncer's clipboard. But now, I want to talk about a folder that does not exist. I want to talk about the ghost in the machine, the proc directory. Most people think everything on a computer lives on the hard drive. But if you walk over to a Linux server, unplug the power cord from the wall, pull the hard drive out, and plug it into another computer, the /proc folder will be completely 100% empty. There is nothing there. Why? Because proc isn't a real folder. It is a live, real-time hallucination created by the Linux kernel. It is a direct wiretap into the computer's live memory, the RAM. Watch my screen. If you don't believe me, open your terminal and type this lsl proc. Look at the file sizes. Every single file in this folder says it has 0 bytes of data, but if you open them, they are packed with text. It's an illusion. You aren't reading a file, you are reading the live electrical pulses of the computer's brain. And as a hacker, the brain is exactly what I want to read. Let me tell you why we hunt in the proc folder. When you compromise a machine, you are flying blind. You don't know what kind of processor it has, you don't know what version of Linux it's running, and if you use loud, noisy scanning tools to find out, the defense team's alarms are going to go off. So we become ghosts. We ask the brain directly. If I want to know exactly what kind of hardware I'm dealing with, I don't run a scan. I type cat proc CPU info, boom. It instantly spits out the exact processor model, how many cores it has, everything. If I want to know what version of the Linux kernel is running so I can look up a 0-day exploit, I type cat/proc/version, instant answers. No alarms triggered. It is totally silent recon. But recon is just the warm-up. Let me tell you a real war story about how Proc gave me the keys to an entire database. I was on an engagement, and I couldn't find the database password anywhere on the hard drive. It wasn't in the config files, it wasn't in the web folders. The admins were smart. But humans are lazy. I realized the admin was running a background backup script. And when he ran that script, he typed the password directly into the command line. Here is the fatal flaw in Linux. When a program is running, Linux creates a numbered folder inside proc for that specific program. We call it a process ID, or PID. And inside that folder, Linux keeps a live record of exactly what command was typed to start the program. Watch this. I used a command like ps to find the process ID of his backup script. I didn't try to hack the database. I just walked right into the ghost folder. I typed cat/proc/process ID command line. And right there, in plain text, glowing on my screen, was the database password. He didn't save it to the hard drive, but because the program was currently running in RAM, the ghost folder remembered it. I didn't have to crack a single hash. I just read the system's mind. Most beginners rely on automated tools to do the hacking for them. When the tools fail, they fail. A real hacker understands how the machine breathes. You have to know the master floor plan. You have to know how to control the general manager. You need to know how to forge the VIP badge, and you need to know how to read the system's mind. If you master these 4 pillars, you don't just use Linux, you own Linux. All right, that is it for today's masterclass. I told you I was only bringing the best from now on, and we just went deep into the trenches. If this video opened your eyes and you want to take this to the absolute next level, check out my Practical Network Scanning and Web Hacking 2026 bundle. It is pure, unfiltered, offensive security. The link is in the description. Also, hit up the free course if you are starting from zero. Just put $0 at checkout and start learning today. Practice these concepts, stay out of trouble, and I will see you in the next video. Keep hacking. One life, one shot, make it count.